No, I'm really in a good way. So let's see what we can do with it. Thank you. And magnificent. I hope God raises you up. I hope your encounter with God is like an exhilarating experience with someone you really love or getting to know better and loving more. Well, we're going to take a little look at that today with a kind of an eye on the question that I can pose to you two ways. Number one, how great is your God? Our God is an awesome God. Thank you, Frank. And another way of looking at that is your God too small? And after you grapple with what we're about to talk about this morning, you're going to come to the conclusion that yes, your God is too small. But that is in no way a put down of you, because we are not in any kind of a position to apprehend the full magnitude of the glory of God. You can't even come close to that, but at least we can try. We can wrap our fingers a little bit around some of it in a way that we understand that we are endowed with God with a curiosity and a mental acuity that allows us to explore some of the things that really are the stuff of God, even though God is, as if you hadn't noticed, completely invisible. And God works in ways that we don't always understand. But God is out there. God is the creator of the universe. When the psalmist, I don't know if this Psalm number 8 is one of David's. I'm not sure. It doesn't have the same cadence as some of his. But in Psalm 8, David looks to the heavens, and or the psalmist does, and looks to the heavens and sees. And this is what he says. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. Out of the mouth of children and nursing infants, you have established a stronghold against your enemies to silence the enemy and the avenger. But when I consider your heavens, the work of your hands, your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have put in place, what is a man that you are mindful of him, and the sons of man that you care for them? You have only made them a little lower than the angels, and you have crowned them with glory and honor. You have made them rulers over the works of your hands. You have put all things under their feet, all flocks and herds, even the wild animals, the birds of the air and the fish that swim through the paths of the seas. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Well, clearly David and everybody else who's ever lived has looked up into the skies at night and seen the magnitude of stars, the array of stars that are available. We live in the slight misfortune that we live in a place where there's so much ambient light that we don't see it as clearly as some people have had a chance to see it. But if you've ever been out in the wilderness where there isn't much background light or much of any, you know whereof I speak, the speckle of stars that we see even as we look up from Palm Springs in the nighttime. When you get in far away from any artificial light, magnifies and magnifies. Have you seen that? And you begin to look, and it's like the entire array of the sky is carpeted with tiny specks of light, and each one of those represent a star. And David looked up, and others looked up, and thought to themselves, your magnitude, your glory, God, is revealed in the stars. But you know something? David, or whoever the psalmist was, had no idea. Not a clue. I mean, he had a spiritual concept about God, but he didn't have the ability or the equipment or the technology to look out into the heavens with any kind of real equipment and have an idea how many stars are actually out there. And he certainly wasn't in a position to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, that would have taken a while even with his ability. But at this point in time, with telescopes, with satellites, with orbiting telescopes, with satellites and equipment and going out into the heavens, we have a much larger idea. And hold on to to your hats, brothers and sisters, because the number is staggering. I really got a kick out of preparing this sermon, because we're going to go up and we're going to go inward and look at the magnitude of the creation of God, which is beyond anything that you could even begin to wrap your mind around, because it is estimated currently that we live, the galaxy that we live in, which is called the Milky Way. We have some pictures of it, and some telescope pictures of it, has 100 to 400 million galaxies. And our galaxy contains that many. No, excuse me, I'm way underestimating. I'm wrong. Correct, Nick. 100 to 400 billion galaxies. That's the universe that we know, and the numbers beyond that are beyond anything that we can imagine. Each one of those has planets rotating them in the tunes of billions and billions of planets. Stars and planets that go far beyond our ability to even grapple with. And we continue. Did you see that recently, the picture of that large planet that has got some characteristics fairly similar to Earth? Looks like it may have water, bodies of water, and it's like 4.5 light years away. Way out there, but they took a picture of it. They're seeing planets now, grappling with that. Kind of amazing. So look at that. The creation is so much bigger than anything we think about, which leads to both an awesome awareness, a sort of an awareness of the grandeur of God, but it also brings us face to face with this interesting question: where do I fit in this? Do I matter? Little old me, occupying a 2,000 square foot house in Palm Springs, occupying, the life that I live at this particular point in human history. Do I matter to this God who has created the universe far beyond anything? I mean, those numbers are completely incomprehensible. Even if you try to translate them into dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars are beyond anything that we can imagine. That's something that we sometimes hear about in economics, but this God is the creator of all that. One of the things that I want to underscore for you, it indicates an order in the universe. The universe is not random. The universe is created. There is a creation out there, and that is expression of the creativity and the divine nature of God. I submit that to you. I submit it is not random. Okay, so we agree with the psalmist on that. He says, by the way, at another point, in Psalm 147, verses 4 and 5, He, God, determines the number of the stars and calls them each by name. Great is our Lord, and mighty is his power. His understanding has no limit. Well, the psalmist got that, but if we were to go back and meet him, or do meet him in heaven, he's going to be quite stunned by the reality of the real magnitude of that creation. Here's a little sidebar on this, and that is talking about the universe, however big it is. The universe is the creation of God. It's kind of somewhat in vogue at the present time to say occasionally, whatever the universe wills. Do you occasionally hear people say that? It's the intention. The universe will give me what I want. You hear people say that. The universe being sort of a statement representing a secular God of sorts. The universe will take care of me. Well, that's sweet. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good. The universe will take care of you. You want to know something? No, the universe will not take care of you. Any more than very superb medical equipment on its own will take care of you during a surgery. A very, if that medical equipment is not under the designated intention and hands of a very fine surgical physician, if the medical equipment in and of its own has no particular purpose. And it has no intention for your life. And that's not saying anything negative at all about medical equipment. In the hands of the surgeon, it all of a sudden becomes an instrument of real transformation, of real healing, of real reconciliation of the body to the injury, the restoration of the body from the injury that it's experienced. So thankful for the equipment, yes, but it in of its own right is completely without objective. It's the surgeon who does it. And so occasionally I've said to people, just because I like to just stir up a few little shackles once in a while, I'll say, the universe will take care of me. And I said, I don't think so. They'll say, I'm not trying to be rude or just maybe it's a little controversial because it's more fun than being, completely non-controversial. I'll say, I've met the dude who created the universe, and he's the one who will take care of you. Because the universe is a creation. No matter how many billions of stars and galaxies out there that creator made, that's the one who made it work. And so far beyond our ability to comprehend, the designer of the universe is at work. Okay, so we're going way, way out beyond our ability. Our satellites are now going out past Pluto, taking interesting pictures. And somehow there is a design in there. That whole thing works in an orderly fashion. And we just barely understand any of that. Isn't that cool? I am so grateful for science. Throughout the 20th century, there's been all this hassle between conservative Christians and science, because science came into the late 19th, early 20th century, seemingly at points contradicting some of the points of Scripture. Like, for example, the world was created in 6 days. Science didn't think so. And lots of different ideas like that. And evolution, all that kind of thing. Those controversies rage on. But the reality is science has given us an opportunity to grapple to some extent with the real magnitude of God. Like in the ways that I'm talking about in astronomy. It's given us the ability to see that. Science and Christianity are not at all in contradiction to each other. There are points where they just have got to recognize their own purpose and limits, because science has got a very important thing to explore with us, and that is what happened and how. And that's not exactly the bailiwick of theology or religion. Theology and religion look at those things. I mean, we're not minimizing them, but we say, why? Why did it happen? And if science asks, why did it happen, it's completely out of its realm. They're basically fishing in the wrong pond. That's not science. Why things happened. I mean, there may be a why in the details and the nuances. Why does a volcano erupt in a particular part of the world and not another? Okay, that kind of why. That's the sort of pragmatic why. But the real reason, the grand reason for the purpose and design of the universe, science doesn't have an answer to that. And if they try to, they're just making they're out of their league. Wrong question. Wrong question for science. Okay, so have looked into this. I have had the privilege lately of trying to grow my brain. Okay, because I'm working in this doing all this work and now consequently research into the area of drug and alcohol rehabilitation, because I'm doing 15 hours a week or so of work and education over at Michael's house here in Palm Springs, which is a drug rehab and recovery facility for alcoholics and drug addicts. And what a privilege that's been. But I've had to come to grips with things that I never dealt with before, because one of the things we're looking at is the idea of how does a brain recover from the real damage that's happened to it as a result of, you know, on the one hand, traumatic brain injury, but also alcohol or drugs, which are poisons. They basically poison the brain cells. And one of the ways is by really the regrowth of the brain, which is being understood now with a new term called neuroplasticity. Okay, sorry about I don't mean to be overly pragmatic here, but it's kind of interesting because what I've come across is something that I never knew before. And that is the brain, the human brain is just utterly amazing. The human brain contains between let me make sure I get my numbers right. Big. 100, be ready for this. The human brain, on the average, contains between 100 and 200 billion neurons. Whoa. I don't know who counted those. That would have taken like all night. But the reality is the 100 and 200 billion neurons. But then in addition to that, the brain consists of between 1 trillion and 2 trillion called glial cells, G-L-I-A-L, which are part of the functioning of the creativity of the mind, the cells that kind of attach to them. But inside of that, all of the neurons are directly or indirectly attached to each other through an amazing process called synaptic transmission. Some of you know what I'm talking about. You've studied some of this. And the synapses are the electrical conduits, the on-off switches that go between the brain cells in unbelievably fast transmissions across things called a little synaptic gap. I hope I'm not getting too technical. It's really, to me, this is really interesting. If these are working correctly, what they basically do is allow the brain cells to connect with each other without, number one, burning out. There's little saps across the gap, and because if they were on all the time, all the brain cells would fry, shut down, and if they don't communicate between each other, the technical medical term for that condition is dead. So the interesting thing about that is that these transmissions happen a couple of 100,000 times a second. Are you getting where I'm going with this? Somebody designed this mechanism, and it's pretty freaking amazing. Every time I make any kind of a movement, a decision, conscious or unconscious activity, as my heart beats, as I look back and I see DeLon back in the very back seat, I can instantly recognize who he is. I can do that again. I can snap my fingers. I can do all kinds of things. And every one of these things takes an amazing number of transmissions of synapses across these gaps. And the system really works amazingly well. Sometimes it gets screwed up, and there's some need for treatment of that. But the reality is, on the whole, we are an amazing creation. See what I mean? Whether you're looking big or whether you're looking small, all of us have got a God who's too small. Because the God who created all of that is the one who's got a handle on every single thing going on in the great or in the tiny universe. Things that we can't begin to see because they're way too far out in the distance of the space of the universe, or we can't begin to see because they're microscopic beyond our ability. Lately, in the 20th century and 21st century, equipment has been designed that actually can see these synapses. They've got photographs. Go on Google. Type in pictures of synapses. It's kind of interesting. Quite amazing. So we're looking at this, and then we come back to the question that let's give Saul name to David. Okay, I like David. It's pretty articulate. Which thing? It says, you have put all things under the feet of men, and birds of the air, and the fish that swim through the paths of the seas. Isn't that beautiful language? Oh, yeah. Where do we fit in? Where do we fit into this magnitude, this God beyond comprehension, a God who knows the very name of every one of the billions and trillions of stars and planets, the one who's got a design for every single neurosynaptic transmission in your brain, knows about the neurons, made you who you are, designed your uniqueness, is completely aware of your genetic issues, knows exactly who you are intimately by name, as I'm able in my small capacity to look out and see you and recognize who you are and don't confuse you for other people. God does that with every one of the billions of people across the earth, and who knows what else in the universe that we have not even begun to explore yet. And every one of those things God knows and intimately cares about you. How do we know that? See, there is a concept called deism, which is the idea that God just sort of cranked up the universe and just left it to run itself. But if they ever read the different Bible than the one I read, the one I read says, on the contrary, that the God who created the universe designed each one of us as a specific and significantly important part of that universe for the purposes of God. What is the chief aim of men? The Westminster Catechism asks, to know God and to worship and love Him forever. That's the chief aim of men. What is, where do I fit into all this? In all kinds of ways. Remarkable gifts of the Spirit that you've been studying in the Bible study, and remarkable talents, uniqueness, the ability to bring your experience to bear with other people. And even when you think you don't have experience, you have the experience of the encounter with that other person at that moment, and God is walking with you in that experience. That makes each and every one of us understand not only do I matter, but there is order to the universe. This universe is not a chaotic mistake as a result 12.5 billion years ago, or however many they're calling it now, of the Big Bang explosion. Do I believe that may have happened? Yes. But that's about all I know about it. Yeah, you see, we're instrumental in the design of God's universe, because the universe was designed for the pleasure of God. And I don't know what He is experiencing far out there, but I get a pretty good idea what He's experiencing with us. When we begin to know Him as He is, explore His real characteristics, become privy to His intentions, understand what it is He wants for us to be and to become, understand and grapple with the characteristics and standards that God wants for us as His daughters and sons. That is not a mystery. That is very clearly revealed in God's Word, the Old and New Testament, the Jewish and the Christian Bibles. And part of that is acknowledging, whoa, God, you're really, really, really big. I don't mean dimensions-wise, but everywhere. God's universal spiritual reality is that God can be and is everywhere at all times, which does not mean that everything is God. That's animism. Not the same. God is everywhere, and God created everything. And so as we grapple with that, we come to grips with this amazing magnitude that is also so intimately personal. Intimately personal. God has called you by name. Do you think God doesn't know your name? Think ahead. Do you think God doesn't know where you are and how you got here? You know that's not true. Do you think that God doesn't know the seed and the egg that He implanted to create you however many years ago that was with your parents, with an intention for your life? Yes, God did all of those things. God designed you. God made you who you are with all of your strengths, gifts, foibles, idiosyncrasies, private characteristics, struggles, pain, processes of maturing and aging. God's with us every step of the way. And beyond this majestic universe, there is a whole dimension of spiritual reality that we will get to experience face to face after we pass from this material universe. So God's calling you by name. Cool. What do you want to do about that? How about give thanks? How about just maybe saying to God, I want to be closer to you. If you haven't had the opportunity to be, to make a personal investment of your life in the life of God through Jesus Christ, today is a good morning to do that. I'm not going to do an altar call. If you grew up in a Baptist church or some others, you would occasionally do altar calls. We don't do those repeatedly, that kind of thing. But I'm just going to ask you to think to yourself, either, have I really given my life, the reins of my life, so to speak, to the Lord Jesus Christ? Or if I have, and this is probably more typical, am I in a wrestling match with God for those? What do I need to give back? What do I need to relinquish? What do I need to give back to God as fulfillment of my majestic creation at the hands of the designer who knows exactly everything? Let's just pray about that. Let's just take a minute. Go where you want with your prayers. That's between you and God. Take a minute for that.